Hello and welcome to WP Roundtable. My name is Jason Crawford. I'm coming to you from Medellin, Colombia, and we've got an extra special guest on tonight, so let's get moving with it.
Hey, I'm Rich Robinkoff, freelance web developer from Cleveland, and I'm excited about our guest tonight.
All right, I'm Kellen Mace. I'm a web developer from the east side of Michigan. Happen to be on tonight with at Medeiros.
All right. Thanks, Kellen. Hey, guys. I'm Kyle Maurer. I'm co-founder of Real Big Marketing, an agency here in Jackson, Michigan. We do WordPress stuff. And I am pretty stoked to be joined by Matt Medeiros today. Matt is a pretty well-known member of the WordPress community. He is the guy behind the Matt Report podcast and Slocum Studios, Slocum Themes, the Conductor Plugin, and, well, for us to list all the things that he's involved in would take up pretty much the rest of the show. So we're going to just let him give the brief introduction of who he is, what he does, and then we're going to move on to learning more about him. So, Matt, who are you?
I've never been on a phone call or a call with so many excited people to be here. It's amazing. Right. Matt Medeiros from Maurer, Slocum Studios, as you said. Run a theme shop, run a plugin business, do some client services, and do a podcast. And I try to share as much of that and be as transparent as I possibly can over on the blog and talk about what it's like running my business and hopefully helping other folks like folks tuning in tonight, with their journey of running a digital business.
Great. Thanks a lot, Matt. And we're going to talk about a lot of those things in the short time that we have together this evening. But first, before we get into the questions, we like to cover our quick picks of the week. And my quick pick of the week, real quick, I've been listening to a lot of great WordPress podcasts lately, but of late, on the recommendation of some other people that I respect in this industry, and also from the mention of people like Matt Medeiros, I've been exploring some other very cool entrepreneurial podcasts, including Startups for the Rest of Us, and a couple others, including The Art of Value. So those are two really fantastic podcasts that I recommend for anybody who likes podcasts, listening to things. Those are very, very high quality shows that I like to tune into. So that's my quick pick of the week. Go check those out.
All right, I guess I'll jump in. I'm really trying to help support Happy Joe here. So at happyjoe.org, they are doing a WordPress boot camp for veterans in, let me double check this, San Antonio, Texas on the 23rd of January. So head on over to happyjoe.org and check it out and see if you can support them or show up or whatever the case is. Help them out.
All right, my quick pick of the week is a plugin that I've been playing around with. It's by Jeff Mattson. It's WP SMS notifications, SMS being text messaging. And it's a real basic, real lightweight plugin. And it's neat because it'll send you a text message, I know, just what we need, more notifications, but it'll let you know when a post is published or changed, when a user logs in, when a plugin or a theme is updated. Just one of those little things to help keep track of, different sites that you're running. So it's a neat little plugin, WP SMS notifications by Jeff Mattson.
Very cool, Rich. It reminds me of some of the pushover ones that are on the repo too. I'll jump in next. My pick of the week is this quiz. I saw it on XWP, which is the WordPress specific branch of Xteam. They are hiring for a new WordPress engineer, and as part of their job requirements listing, they had this test, WordPress test, and I hadn't heard of it before, but some of the folks who wrote the test, I recognized their names. So I thought it was pretty well put together. It might indicate how familiar, a level of familiarity somebody has with WordPress, especially coming into a developer role. They ask things like, what is the filter for this, or the hook for that, or if you ask WordPress for this thing, but don't specify any parameter or anything, what does it default to? And just those little quick things like that just come with experience. So anyways, it's Smarterer, so smarter with another ER on the end, .com/tests/WordPress user is the quiz, and it's pretty good. I learned some things about myself, what I kind of knowledge, deficits or things I could work on just from taking that little test. So quick and easy and revelatory, I would say.
Matt, do you have a quick pick for us?
I do. I'm going to echo what Jason had mentioned about supporting Happy Joe. Retweet that, mention it, share it on your Facebook, mention it in podcasts, do as much as you possibly can. James Dahlman is the man. You guys should really schedule him for an upcoming show if you haven't already. The dude embodies passion, encouragement, and inspiration, so I definitely would get him on the show. But Happy Joe, all the way.
Thank you for that, and he definitely should be on our list. Isn't scheduled yet, but I'm coming after him to get him on our schedule. So thank you for sharing that. Those are some good quick picks, you guys. I really like those, and I second every one of them. I particularly love Smarter 2 as well.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
Cool.
And that WordPress quiz on there is actually quite substantial. There are a lot of questions. I'm going to work on that for a very, very long time. Check it out. All right, so down to the business of the day. We want to learn more about the man who knows more about running a WordPress business than anybody I know, somebody I consider really to be a true expert and a thought leader in this community, and someone who I can genuinely say, without hesitation, has really helped my WordPress business. So, Matt, we thank you for what you've done and for your great show that's helped us a lot and the content that you produce. And we want to learn more about you, and so do our viewers. So let's start a little bit from the beginning. There's a lot current that we want to talk about. So can you give us just kind of like a real brief story of what brought you to today and at the point that you're at now? Take us to the present, Cliff Notes version. Let's go.
Yeah. So I come from a line of entrepreneurs. So my grandfather, my father, my grandfather started selling shoes door to door, way back in the day. That transitioned to selling tires. When one would sell tires to other either service shops or auto dealerships, that kind of thing. That spawned into owning a used car dealership, which spawned into running one of the first Mazda dealerships in the U.S. Then my father and his brothers took over the dealership. I grew up in the dealership, so I've always been around sales, basically what I'm getting at. As it is, I've always been working with my family and continue to at our digital agency, Slocum Studio. We formed that, when I say we, it's co-founded by myself and my father. We started that now that we're in 2015, so that was 8 years ago, just about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. Previous to that, a few years previous to that, he had ended up selling out of the business well before I was a General Motors dealership, Chevy and Cadillac, selling out of the dealership before General Motors went bankrupt. Kind of saw the writing on the wall, as it were. Pulled out of that. I was working a full-time gig at a local ISP, internet service provider, as a product manager, and he was always doing the photography thing. Pro photographer, many classes and hours behind the camera, and he was taking photos for somebody one day, and they said, "Hey, I need a website to go along with this. Do you know somebody?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it for this person." It was a jeweler. They were a jewelry store. One thing led to another and transitioned out of the ISP, and we were like, hey, let's build an agency because we already have a portfolio of business folks that we've worked with over the 50 years that we had a local business, right? All of these local businesses that needed help getting off the ground digitally. So we had a Rolodex that we could go after, and for better or for worse, that's how it kicked off. So, yeah.
Great. So you've been running that agency for a little while, and at some point, I've heard you talk about this before, you started selling WordPress themes commercially, and you've been involved in a couple of other things. You've got the Matt Report podcast going on, and a pro membership part of that. You've got a couple other podcasts that you've been involved in, and recently you've launched a premium WordPress plugin, the Conductor Plugin, which is fantastic, and I'm hearing nothing but good things about it. So you're involved in quite a variety of things, and given the fact that we've only got an hour with you, we don't get to talk about every single one of those, unfortunately. So we're going to pick just a few of the things that we really are most curious about.
Sure.
Start hitting you with some tough questions.
Sure.
So I'm curious, because you've been running an agency for a long time, and relatively to a lot of us. Let's talk about a little bit of the differences between your agency when you started and your agency today. And I'm most curious about some things that you completely changed in, things that you flip-flopped on. What are examples of things that when you started your business, when you started as an entrepreneur, you said, we'll never do this, I'll never do that, I'll never go that way, or run my business that way, or offer this, but today, completely flip-flopped on.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today, actually, and actually before I started reading the notes, where everyone sort of expects, and I'm guilty of it, right? Because I sort of sensationalize the entrepreneurship journey, right? We hear a story and we talk about how how somebody started, and then all of a sudden it's like fast forward 10 years later, and it's all of a sudden like, hey, they're super successful or whatever. Everybody expects that line to be super straight, and it never really is. And in actuality, it's always this squiggly up and down line to get to your next the next point of what you deem as success. And I would say the biggest thing, the biggest change from day one to day whatever we're at now, is confidence, right? And confidence in what we can really do as a team, and understanding which client is not the best fit. I remember interviewing people, right, and talking about like, how do you raise your rates? How do you find the right client? All that fun stuff. And you would always hear these other leaders in the space say, well, you just raise your rate, and then you hear that and you're just like, oh, well, it's easy for you to say because you don't have to put food on the table, you don't have to pay the bills or meet payroll, that kind of thing. Eventually it gets to that point where you just do raise your rate. Where it's like, it's crazy. It's like eventually to that point you just say, yeah, I'm just going to raise my rate. And I'm just going to tell this person it is now 5 times more expensive to hire me for this hour than it was last year. So we're much more confident in knowing the value that one gets working with our team, especially a local client, right? I know one of your questions on here is what makes you different as an agency, and one of the things you may have heard me talk about before is we have a print product, right? We have a sister product. It's a travel guide. It's a printed piece. It's 88 pages, 50,000 prints. It goes out annually. The difference is we bring in we have a traditional component along with our digital component, right? And for local clients, you can't beat the value of that. One, you get advertised in a high-quality printed piece that only comes out once a year. It's a great business networking tool. We network businesses with each other. So when you're signing on with us to do a website, you have the chance to reach out and advertise to local consumers, and it's a really targeted fit for folks. But we also sort of drop you into this network of the other advertisers. Hey, this advertiser has 20% off business to business. Because you advertise, you'll get a discount with their business, that kind of thing. So we make it a win-win on both sides of the fence for our local clients. And that's sort of what we do differently. So we're much more confident now, and we know a whole heck of a lot better how we all work together as a team and how we can serve our clients, right? And saying no to the ones that just don't fit the bill anymore. I'm sorry, we just can't waste that time with you because of all the stuff we're going to bring to the table. If you're not fully bought into the process, I'm sorry. Certainly recommend you to another agency, but you might not be the right fit for us. And that's the biggest thing over the course of the 7 to 8 years that we've been in business that we've really learned.
That's awesome. You mentioned working with your team and everything. On the Art of Value podcast, your interview there, you mentioned one of your things was a project manager, and having your project manager, you'd never get rid of them, even if your client hated the idea. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you manage your different employees, how they interact within the business?
Sure. So project management, number one, I think that if you're a solo founder or if you're a developer or a designer, I would you hear almost everyone say, I'm a designer, I need to find a developer. I'm a developer, I need to find a designer. I would almost challenge that and say find somebody that can handle the back end of the house, be it project management or support or just emails or accounting, that kind of thing. The stuff that you really don't want to turn to and look at. I mean, I do love project management. Like I do love being able to have a dialogue with my customers, daily if not weekly. I love the exploration of being a project manager. So to kind of help you define the role that we have as a project manager, you're not just, hey, we need to get, we're at A, we need to get to B in 2 weeks. It's much more, a guided process and a discovery process for each step, right? So the project manager is finding the goals that the client needs to reach and helping them understand WordPress and the technology and the opportunity that they have with a new website. So basic is like, we're installing Gravity forms. You're going to get leads. Like you're going to have a way to track leads and the conversion percentage of those forms. Oh, that's great. That's actually going to be really good for our marketing team. Yeah, I'd be happy to set up a meeting with the marketing manager and show them what else they can do with this. Like we can hook this into MailChimp. We can do like Zapier integrations and automate some other stuff you might have going on. Happy to help in that area. Let me know, and we can set that up. And it's very much of a relationship instead of just a, where's the content that you promised us? Do you like this color blue versus red? So that's the project management role. How I interact with everybody, I give you a real 40,000-foot view of that, is everyone's sort of bought into us as a company and as a team. So though 10up and my company started at the very same time, we're two very different animals. We're two very different founders, right? So one would say, well, 10up has 100 employees and you have 10. What's the deal with that? Two very different business models, two very different approaches, and my guys and gals very much bought into the way we do it. We're very much family. Not saying that 10up is not, but the culture is very much like we're all in this together. Everyone has a say. Everyone can kind of create their own destiny, as cliche as that sounds. But it's very much a family culture. We all work together. It's like half and half distributed. We have an agency office studio. Everybody reports to it. Most of everybody reports it during the weekdays, and some other folks that are remote that we integrate with Slack and Hangouts and all that fun stuff. So yeah, very much a family culture, and very much bought into the mission of helping our clients. Everybody under our umbrella is sort of looking at how can we help these clients further their business, and that's the mindset that we're all in.
That's awesome. You say you've got 10 employees. Would you mind telling us, how you break that down? Do you have, designers, front-end developers, back-end developers? I mean, who do you have, and what are you looking for in an employee? Sure.
What I'd be looking for in an employee is, it depends on the position, right? So we are going to start to look for support folks fairly soon to start, managing the flow of support for themes and Conductor, and maybe some light duty client support, how to use WordPress, that kind of thing. I think in those roles, it's very much task-oriented, right? I think there are A players and there are B players. I think that finding B players, there's everyone as a founder. Let me take a step back. I think one of the questions you have is, what was the biggest sort of mishap along the way? So one of the biggest mishaps along the way early on was hiring folks who you thought were bought in to your vision and your passion, right? Like you get so amped up about people who are going to join the team and we're all going to dominate the world and it's going to be great and we're going to build all this awesome stuff. Not everybody is built for that mentality. Not everybody can see the vision that a founder sees, and they don't have to, right? So that's a very it's definitely a speed bump in a lot of founders, because you're amped up, you're ready to go, you got your product ready to rock, and you think everybody else sees the same thing as you. They don't necessarily do, and they don't necessarily have to, right? If they can fit this system, like all you have to do is support customers and show them how to use WordPress. That's all I need you to do. As long as you can do that, it's thumbs up at the end of the day, and we can move on. Then we have some of our more veteran employees, the employees that are vested in the company, right? So they get a percentage, right, of stuff going on in the company. They've been there the longest, but they also are, they're not, working till the wee hours of the morning, but at night they're involved. They see a message come through, they respond to it. They're on the hook for, something that happens on the weekend. They're down, right? They're down to fix it. They want to fix it because they all know that we all succeed together. The first hires was actually my cousin, and he's still there today as operations, right? I knew from day one that I needed somebody to watch for operations. One of the things that I learned at the old company I was at, because I used to manage a web design department there, was a web development department, which was primarily Drupal 5 at the time. There was no bean counting, right? No accounting of dollars, but there was no accounting of time spent on a project. It's crazy. Like, this was, whatever it was, 10 years ago. But these developers and designers would just like go off the grid for weeks, and and the sales team would be like, what is going on, right? There was no management of that stuff. That was the first thing I did, was set in stone that we needed to track every single project, as small as it was to as big as it was. And we still do today. Everybody tracks their time so we can have data to reflect year after year how long our average projects take us. Helps us forecast numbers. It helps us do proposals better. It's not for everybody. We've had some developers and designers come and go because they were like, oh, I can't track every hour. It's not. I mean, you don't have to be to the minute, but you have to at least be by the hour or the half hour. It's just part of our system. And then from there, it was designer, developers, marketers. Marketers are more part-time with us, and then we have some outside sales people, especially when it comes to the printed product, right? Selling direct advertising and things like that, and then sort of cross-sell the digital. Hope that answers your question. I was kind of ranting for a little bit.
Well, that was great. Thank you, man. I have one for you along the lines of Slocum Studio and your work there. I was wondering, anybody who's an avid listener of the Met Report has heard you talk about doing the balancing act, right? Especially somebody like yourself who has so many things going on concurrently, as you do, right? I was wondering, in your last episode, I think it's the 100th episode, right? And then the related blog post you've done recently, you're talking about some tools that you use for yourself, right? To keep yourself on track with everything that's going on, and even then it's kind of a struggle. I was wondering, though, kind of on a bigger scale in terms of the whole agency, like what do you do just because the agency is, doing premium themes and premium plugins and lots of custom deployments and stuff for clients. What do you use at the agency level to stay up to date with all these different things, all these different revenue streams and projects and et cetera going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So primarily, I'll give you the breakdown of sort of how the three major applications that we use, and I've sort of already mentioned one, but we put everything, all of our, we started out, again, this was another thing, this was another huge blunder in the beginning. I was very much a Basecamp, Jason Fried, 37 Signals, Jason Fried, all those dudes. Yeah. A huge fan, I'm sure, and I still am. But back then, I mean, I was drinking the Kool-Aid, right? And I was just like, we're going Basecamp, like this is the way to go, like, we're going to manage projects. Because again, I was coming from a scenario that there was zero project management. Now I was like, we are going to project manage the shit out of every project because I didn't want to, I didn't want to lose a customer. I didn't want to lose anything. So anyway, so back then, again, so this is like 7 or 8 years ago, we were launching Basecamp, or we were using Basecamp, and we were like force feeding our clients to use Basecamp, right? These folks were like, they were still trying to figure out how to use posts in WordPress, right? They didn't even know what WordPress was. And that was already a challenge, right? Understanding what a CMS was, what that capabilities were. And then we were like, yeah, use this thing called Basecamp. And they were like, I'm just going to email you, right? And then I mean, literally, the entire first year, I can remember so many cases of like sitting down with the client, either the marketing person or the owner of the company, and just being like, you need to log into what's Basecamp? Here's where the time. Oh, I forget where the calendar is. How do I upload a file again? Like, I was spending more time supporting Basecamp than I was our own project, and I was like, this is not going to work anymore. Yeah. So that was a huge fault, forcing either a client or yourself to use technology where you don't need to. So what do we use today? So we use Freshdesk today for all incoming emails. So I know a lot of people love Help Scout. I actually use Help Scout for Matt Report, but for the agency stuff, I like the ticketing system, right? I like being able to log into a dashboard and see separate tickets with conversations within each one, and I want my clients to have that same experience because it puts the ownership on us. If they log into a ticket and they see that we have not responded in 24 hours, 48 hours, they can see that visually. It's not like they have to look in their inbox, blah, blah, blah. So everything filters through Freshdesk, and then it goes out to either something that we can solve immediately in Slack, where the team can, we used to use Google Talk before, or Google Hangouts before Slack, but everybody can chat about the ticket in there. We've got it all connected with Zapier. And then anything that's more like milestone-centric or files that need to be shared will all live in Trello. For projects, for themes, and for plugins, we have lists that are already, workflows that are already created, templates, if you will, to-dos, and then we copy and paste those into the next project. So then, like when we're launching a project, we know everything that we have to do for design, development, discovery, and launch, and then we just go through the checklist. Anything that's milestones or something that we need to meet as a team at a more global view stays in Trello. So it goes Freshdesk, Slack in the intermediary, and then Trello, for any milestone stuff. From the sales point of view, we use Pipedrive. I think it's pipedrive.com, and we use that. We use it primarily for the print product because there's a lot more conversations going on in the sales cycle, whereas there's not as many in the custom agency. I'd love it if that were the case in the agency side, but on the printed side, there's a lot more sales conversations happening.
Very nice.
Hey, Matt, I wanted to ask you about a specific project. I'm going to actually reference back to a blog post you did on January 1st, The Precursor to Greatness. I think you see where I'm going with this one. And your battle with Conductor and how you compared it to Pippin's success and James Law's, and what are your insights on how Conductor's doing and what you need to do to fix those numbers, more than 9 effing grand?
Yeah. So to give myself a little bit of credit and to give the product a little bit of credit, that was whatever that was, a 4-month span, right? So in 4 months, it did 9 grand as a brand new product. I don't take away. I still think it is a successful launch. The idea behind that was going into the new year. As you all see it coming through your Twitter feed and your Facebook feed of all of the numbers, right? And again, I'm always conscious of the glamour of the startup world, right? So even though I interview people and I use headlines like Corey Miller built $1 million business on iThemes, right? And I say those things, I do that to justify that WordPress is a legitimate cornerstone for a business. I also realize that there are folks out there who are trying to make it, and they're like, "Shit, how do I do this?" And here's another person saying they're making, 7 figures with a WordPress theme on Envato, and they're doing like a, Dateline special of him walking through his mansion, and you're like, "What?" Like, I've been selling themes for 3 years. Why? I can't even buy a freaking little 7-foot skiff to go out in the river. So the idea was not to get down on yourself, right? Not to let that stuff deter you from launching your product or your business. And looking at that, the numbers stacking up against other people, and you're like, oh crap, like you're only making 9 grand. The only thing that you can do is you're putting yourself in a position to continue to build something great, right? And I had a phone call today that might be a fairly sizable deal for Conductor as a product, right? And had I never launched Conductor or never was too afraid to pull the trigger, this potential deal could never be on. Even if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to talk to somebody and get it going. I think a lot of people that might see these numbers be like, man, I'll never hit 700,000. Well, don't forget, Pippin was doing that for 6 years, right? It took 6 years to get to that number, right? And if you look at the 2 previous years before that, those numbers are like, man, is that a serious business to hire all these people? If people see things like $300,000 in revenue, but that's like paying 2 salaries and the overhead of running a business and paying somebody for support. Still not, numbers like Snapchat or Instagram, right?
Well, there's a lot of people out there that would love to have $9,000 over 4 months of revenue. That's not bad when you put it in perspective.
Right.
Not against Pippin, but against the rest of the market.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And when we had our best year in themes. Now, I don't really disclose any of the numbers with the theme stuff, but we 4x'd our themes over the last year. So digital sales are still very strong for us.
Why do you think that is, Matt? Why themes in particular?
Well, you mean why? I would say that our themes are strong for us only because of all the marketing that I do, right? And putting more investment in that and launching more themes, of course, and then the general marketing plan behind it. I think that themes are a very interesting market, which is why I don't really talk about the number side of it that we do. But I think there's still plenty of room to grow in themes. You just have to be doing it sort of how the market wants, not just how WordPress elitists want it, right? So just because somebody might say, don't build a theme with 1 million options, it's a little hard to say. It's a little hard to say that and then look at like X theme, right, and know that they did 5 million in revenue, and you're like, well, that guy's doing it. He's got all the options. Why? Why? You don't want me to do all these options because you don't want to support it? Well, you don't have to support it. They'll just buy it from me, and I'll support it, right? So I think it's a very interesting space. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that original question.
Oh, that was great. Thanks, Matt. I thought that, for me personally, Precursor to Greatness blog post was perfect. I think it was very well timed. Definitely, it's super cool to read these end-of-year reviews from people like Pippin and Thomas Griffin and stuff who both, disclose their numbers and talk about what a great year they had and how they're, paying off their houses, and plugins are just the greatest thing. And for somebody like myself, we're a services agency on the brink of, within the next week or 2, launching our first premium WordPress plugin, which I'm so incredibly excited about. And reading your blog post was like, I don't know how to put it exactly, but it was perfectly timed to help understand what goes into these initial stages. Because obviously those other guys, that wasn't their first year. They were quite established and talking about down the road where they've gotten. So.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes from, again, it's like the start of a new year. Everybody's like either setting their goals, and it's just one of those things where, I mean, I know, even with like the Matt report, one of the things that I put out was like, if you want to just email me, you email me and ask me a question, right? I mean, if you're going to email me and ask me a question, like I said in that post, every week, I'm going to tell you, join Matt Report Pro, because not only will I not answer all your questions through email every single week, but you'll get access to all these other people that will help you along the way. The point is that so many people are out there like wondering how to do this, and they're either afraid to do it, or they sort of look at this and like they feel it's not easy. Like starting a company, starting a business, especially if you're working another job and you want to pivot to your own thing, or even if you've been in it for 2 years and you're like, why isn't this working yet? It's just one of those things that just takes so much damn time and so much persistence that you have to fight through it. Like everything else, you have to fight through it. And again, I think that folks, again, guilty as charged. I bring people onto the show, I got a half an hour to talk to them, and it looks like you can be rich in 30 minutes, right? And it's so not the case. And I want to remind people that don't let that discourage you from launching. Don't let it get you down when you look at your numbers compared to their numbers. I was the fat kid in high school. Still the fat kid, but I'm still pushing hard as I can at the gym, right? Don't let that get you down. Do your thing and just keep going.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. That's really, really good. So I've got another question for you. This is one that I'm just totally curious about, and so basically we all listen to your show, and watch your videos, and tune into the Matt Report a lot, and you interview a lot of successful entrepreneurs and people who talk about things that have made them successful. And a piece of advice that I hear a lot from those kind of entrepreneurs is it's a good thing to do one thing and do it really well, to really specialize, to just be the best in your area of expertise. And so I think that, oh, that sounds like solid advice. That sounds like the way to go. But then I think about Medeiros, and here's a guy who's involved in more projects than I can even keep track of. Talk to us a little bit about diversifying, specialization, and how you make the determination. I'm especially curious about how you calculate where should I be spending my time. Where is the most useful way for me to utilize my time? Should I invest more in this or this or this or this right now? Write a blog post here, do this or do that. Talk a little bit about that.
You guys have the best back channel going on right now. It's so hard to listen to the question when I see so much good stuff happening. No, this is a great topic, and one that I don't think I have the 100% perfect silver bullet answer for, and I'll tell you why. I think as entrepreneurs, people who are going to start a business, we just have this thing inside of us that says, I'm just going to go and do it, right? I don't care what everybody else says. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to figure out how to do it, and I'm going to get it done. I'm one that will. I'm kind of split, right? I'm kind of 50-50 on, do you correct something or do you just play into your weaknesses, right? I'm not really good at eating healthy. So instead of forcing myself, I'm just well, I really enjoy working out, so I'm just going to work out a lot, or just work out harder, or go for runs more, right? And then say, screw it, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm just going to push really hard on this end and have fun over here. And I think as entrepreneurs, the point of that is we are who we are because we have all of these ideas in our heads and in our head. So if we just have to play into that and execute on all of those ideas as best we can without going crazy, right? So WPmentor.org spawned because I do mentorship for a local community college, and I wrote a blog post, and some people had commented and said, hey, this would be great. So I spent an afternoon, launched a free job board, WPmentor.org, and people go and sign up, right? Look, honestly, I put very little attention to it. I should probably put more, but it's thriving. People make connections there. It's awesome. Same thing goes for the business. Everything we do, so that's sort of my theoretical, artsy kind of answer, right? The strategy in the business is do every choice that we make to scale, right? So Conductor was built after we had 2 clients request the same thing. So every time a client requests a feature or a function, we always ask ourselves, can this scale to somewhere else? Can it scale into our themes? Can it scale into an internal process? Can it scale to another client? Because along the way, a client's going to ask for the same thing again. So why not optimize that and either build a piece of software or technology for it or a system? And when every time, it's like casting a net, bringing all the fish back, and then, hey, this one we're going to throw back, but we're going to keep a majority of these, and let's try fishing over here again, right? That kind of thing. So Conductor was built for scale, and one thing led to another, right? So we try all these things, have a lot of irons in the fire, and hopefully something comes back and it works, and some things totally fail, right? One service in particular, not a failure, but something we don't market a lot, is our Embrace WP product, embracewp.com. So that is your monthly WordPress support service, right? So we had grand visions of the same thing, right? We had grand visions of, before WP Curve was WP Curve, right? So we had that same kind of vision, and we started just getting more and more agency work. At the time we launched that, agency work was kind of flatlined. we weren't really getting much, and theme sales were very flatlined. And then all of a sudden, we got more agency work than we could shake a stick at, and theme sales started to go up, right? So we pulled attention back to what we knew was a moneymaker, right? I say all this, and then at the same time, my biggest piece of advice for those who are out there trying this method of irons in the fire, I'm going to launch something over here, I'm going to launch something over here, never forget about the thing that actually works already, right? Because you get that shiny object syndrome, right, where you're making money with one product or service, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to go try this, right? Never forget about this thing that's already making you money, right? Because you can always tune that and sort of optimize that to go 2x, 3x, 5x to make more money, right? So try a lot of things, know that you're going to fail at some of them, and always go for scale, right? Whenever you're making that decision, how is this going to affect the next customer or my team, or can I turn this into a product? I think rework is what 37 Signals wrote the book about that, was how do you take the residual of, you know, one part of your business and apply it to the next, right? And they sort of go full circle, right, where they have their Basecamp product and they have all of this residual learning from running a business, and they write books about it, right, and they speak about it, right? So it all kind of goes full circle, and that's the attempt. There's no solid answer for it.
That's as good an answer as we could ask for.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. For listening to you and some other business speakers, I'm always reminded of some sales and business books I've read in the past that say that a potential client or customer will trust you more if you are a little self-critical, that kind of thing, and you're not afraid to bring up a little weakness here or there, as long as you say, but I recognize that, and here are the things I put in place to make it a non-issue. I really appreciate that about you, especially on the Met report. You're really open about what worked and didn't, right? Which I think makes you very credible. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
My question for you, my pleasure. My question for you is something as somebody who speaks to so many successful business owners and has been doing this quite a while. I've been wondering about releasing niche products versus more general or mainstream, that kind of thing. It seems to me the advice of many out there is, especially if you're just getting started, is to find that niche that you can really target, really conquer, especially if you're familiar with the client base and their needs, right? So it seems like really good advice, and a lot of folks are doing well in that area. But it seems to me that the more successful you are, you can kind of stray away from that and release some of these mainstream products. But you have to really know the market to do that. So when I say that, I'm thinking of something, going back to talking about Pippin. It was a great case study, right? Something like Easy Digital Downloads. There are a number of e-commerce plugins on the market already. Somebody less experienced who attempted that would probably fall flat, right? But somehow, doing it for so many years, he knew that digital products have a weakness, even though e-commerce is this huge, massive thing. I know that I can release a non-niche product like that and do well, right? Would you say that comes with experience, and how would somebody know if they're, ready to release more of a general product like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way I would approach it, and Conductor is a very good, not to just keep talking about that product, but it was one of those things where it's like, we are going to focus solely on the display of content. Like, we want to take any content that you have within WordPress and help you display it without writing any lines of code. And I say that as somebody who has always hated headlines of no code necessary until you have to write a line of CSS, right, to make it work. And you're like, you just said there was going to be no code. And so the whole niche thing is great. I mean, I feel that you have to hit such a home run on that niche product that, and even still, like everything has to fire off perfectly. Like, your branding and your messaging are way more crucial than the features and function of the product. Because if this is a niche product, there's 1, 2, 3 competitors out there, maybe, right? If you're really focused in on something totally brand new, it doesn't matter how beautiful the app looks when it's installed, or the plugin looks when it's loaded, or the theme when it's displayed. If that messaging isn't there, people aren't going to get it, right? And it's the same thing I struggle with Conductor, because we say we're content first. What the hell does that mean? It means we focus on content and not the actual visual design of your site. Like, we take content and display it for you. And I still even struggle with that. The second thing is that, so you have to be super on point with your messaging, your marketing, your branding, you know, if you're going to go into the niche market. The second thing is, if this is new to you, I probably wouldn't go niche. I would go for a mainstream product, something that you know people are looking for, like easy digital downloads, or digital downloads, and like contact forms, and like pop-up boxes, right? Things that people are already doing, that you already know that there's search traffic to. You already know there's a membership plugins. You already know there's a pain point, right? You know there's a market, and you know there's a pain point, and that's where you sort of niche down. I mean, look at James Laws with Ninja Forms. Like, when Ninja Forms launched, people were like, "You're crazy, right? It's not going to work, right?" And it's that perfect quote unquote success story of somebody launching into a mainstream market and you know, going after it, right? And you know, now having one of his best years ever, and next year the number's going to be even greater, right? And that's the thing about starting a product. Like, you start off and you're like, shit, I only made $9,000, but that was $9,000 in 4 months. So hopefully this year it's $50,000. What's going to be the next year? For me, I'm hoping $1 million, right? But yeah, you know, whatever that number is, with all things pointing in the same direction, yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be continued success. So I would almost go after a mainstream market. You know, something that maybe not contact forms, that might be, or e-commerce, that might be a hard thing to chew, but maybe contact forms or something that you know that there's a general interest in, because you have to be so on point with your marketing with niche, it's not even funny. Yeah. So unless you focus 80% on your marketing and 20% on the product, then do it that way.
Oh. Isn't that, just to push back a little bit, I've heard some say the opposite, that if you're targeting that niche market, you know, you can find out what 3 or 4, you know, blogs or news outlets or whatever does this particular type of client visit. I'm advertising on all of them, right? And you can do that if you have a little whatever invested money to throw behind it. You can really get this in people's faces, you know, more so than, at least that's what many people claim, right? More so than the general plugin where it's kind of lost in the sea of other things.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So the messaging would have to be that somebody that you're going to bring to a marketer or to that potential audience that they get like that. Like, there can't be a second guess in that scenario.
Okay.
You know, and you know, the only thing is, and then take a look at where you are in your business life cycle. Are you the solopreneur? Do you have a co-founder? Do you have people that you have building the product with you? If you do, so if you have people to help you, okay, you're in a different situation. If you're that solopreneur that has to develop it, design it, launch it, market it, and support it, it's easy. I think it's easy for people to say, yeah, find a niche product, then find those advertisers, and then write content over there, and then blog over there, and then do PPC over here. And you're like, right. What? Like, I gotta like sell this stuff, and I have a day job, and I have to build it. So it's so easy to say that until you're like, oh my God, this takes a lot of damn work, right? Jason Resnick is a good guy to talk to with WP Field Guides. That was something that he ran into as he produced the book, WP Field Guides. It was like, man, this took a long time, right? And now I have to go market it. And then you're just like fatigued, right, by that point. So be ready for the precursor to greatness.
Nice.
Hey, Matt.
Nice.
I know you did a whole show on this over at the Art of Value, so we don't want to take up an entire show wasting on it, but would you hit the highlights of your value-based pricing?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, don't go and tell them, but I don't really like the term value-based pricing. I do and I don't, right? I'm kind of sort of on the fence about it, right? So I mean, I grew up, like I said, in the car dealership, in the industry of selling something, right, and selling something of value. So if you're here to buy a truck, and oh, by the way, Mr. Customer, I see you have a boat, right? You have a trailer hitch on your truck that you drove in with. It's all rusty. Do you have a boat? What do you tow? Do you tow a tractor? Or are you a landscaper? Or do you have a boat that you drop into the water? What's going to be of value to you? I've always sort of had that, but it's always been because of it's something that's going to help. And I guess the term goes both ways. So the value is I'm going to sell you something that's valuable to you, and I'm going to get pricing based on that. I think it's something that is that definitely can be taught. I'm very much in the mindset of negotiating pricing based on that. I don't know if it's like an exact science. Because some people are just not going to be down for it, right? You're not going to walk into, like we do a lot of business with like higher ed, right? So I can't walk into a marketing and management team and be like, so what is this worth to you? Oh, you're a higher ed, or you're a university, and I know your average tuition is $75,000 per student. Well, I'm going to go after you at X to the 5th power, and this is going to be $3 million, and they're going to be like, this is a multi-site install for students. Like, no way are we going to pay you that. So for me, it's a very case by case basis. I think a lot of sort of the corporate people aren't going to buy into the value based positioning of your proposal. Small businesses will, marketers will, e-commerce maybe, but I don't think it fits the bill for everybody. But I think that for an entrepreneur, especially if somebody who's a consultant, absolutely, right? Are you gold, right? You are the agent, and you're walking into the room, and you're going to help this person sell their book or their digital products or their own business. You're going to help them with that. Then you sure as heck go in and price it based on value, and you make them your priority, and you give them the sales pitch that's going to knock their socks off. And yeah, absolutely, by all means, value based in that way, but I don't think it works in every scenario.
Hey Matt, I wanted to ask you a productivity question. I know we're starting to get tight on time. I wanted to get this in. This is actually something from the audience, so I wanted to make sure to ask. Do you find that you're in a more productive work zone during a specific part of the day? If yes, what is your most productive time? I know you've got so many, things going on, and your post today about how to journal for sanity, things like that. So, what about your day? What works for you?
Another great question, and another no answer for you. Again, like I say that I play into my weaknesses in this particular scenario because some days are just chaos, right? And you find yourself, working the 14-hour shift and catching up. So I find myself in a lot of those situations. How am I going to change that moving into 2015? In the post today about journaling, very much focused on the getting things done review process. Even if I'm not following the getting things done, I'm assuming most folks know that about that book. Even if I'm not following the getting things done methodology, word for word, the review process really puts things in front of you and says, here's what you're accountable for this next week, right? And I'm highlighting 2 or 3 major goals through the week that I know I need to hit, right? Because when you live by your to-do list, you die by your to-do list, right? Same thing with the inbox. So at the start of the week, like I had my review on Sunday, which was yesterday, I outlined the 2 major business deals I have to work on this week, and I already got one of them done today. I got another one to do tomorrow, and then there's like the marketing stuff. Publish the Maurer stuff, publish marketing stuff for Conductor and Slocum themes. And those are the priorities after the business moves. Anything other than that is just gravy, right? Typically it was just like get to the next thing, and then by the end of the week you feel like you never got anything accomplished. Well, if you look back and saw all the stuff you accomplished, you'd be like, holy shit, I actually did get a lot done. So it's like tricking my brain to say, here's the things I only need to highlight this week, and most of them are going to come around impacting the bottom line, right? Business moves for the agency, right? Or like deals for Conductor. So highlighting those, making sure I hit those out of the park first and foremost. and then whatever I produce during the rest of the week, I produce during the rest of the week. I won't feel like I have to hit everything on my to-do list, right? I have an in-motion. It's called I use Wunderlist. I have my inbox, and then I have an in-motion list, and those are the things where I'm just like, can I do this week? Nope. I'm gonna throw it in motion, and then on Sunday, I'll review that and see if I can move that onto the priority of the following week. And I started thinking about today, like maybe I'll start scoring these things, right? Like here comes the stupid talk. Like I'll start scoring these things, and if it hits a score of 3, which means I bypassed it 3 weeks, then I'm just going to get rid of it completely. Like I'm never going to touch this again. Or maybe this is something I can sublet to my team, and somebody on the team can handle for me.
Great. Thanks a lot. That's a lot of good information, Matt. We appreciate that. So we're winding down to the last couple minutes, and we've got to ask you just some final quick questions. So these are going to have to be bang, bang in a row. You can give us your quick answers, and we'll wrap things up. So I'm going to shoot you first with another one from the audience, from someone named Lisa, who wants to know, how many articles have you prepared already for the Matt Report Pro Content Creation Challenge?
1.
All right, that's impressive, fantastic. All right, so this is a question that you of all people, I want to know your answer. And you've mentioned a couple good names already. Who else should we get on the schedule to interview on the show in the future?
Yeah, I'm going hands down, all in, James Dahlman.
James Dahlman, definitely. We're going to get him. That's a good suggestion. Any others?
James Dahlman.
Okay. Point taken. All right.
So are you saying James Dahlman?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's some ambiguity there.
James the Man Dahlman.
Okay. Perfect. We have kind of been stalking a lot of your lists in the past. There's a pretty direct correlation, I think.
I'll give you a quick backstory. When I saw him at Prestige Conf, I was working out at the gym, and he came in, right, and he cranked up his Rocky song, and he got on the treadmill, and he's just doing like all-out like sprints, just looking at me out of the corner of his eye the entire time, just trying to show me how much of a competitor he is. He's nuts.
That is so cool. Wow. Okay. Next question. Just let's go on record officially. Matt Medeiros, Super Bowl prediction this year. What's going to happen?
Patriots.
Patriots against who?
It doesn't even matter. Patriots are winning. But people aren't even going to show up. They're going to get to Arizona, and they're going to be the only team taking the field and be like, oh, looks like Green Bay decided to back out. I think it's going to be Green Bay, Patriots 43-23.
Didn't Green Bay play New England not too long ago?
Yeah. I missed it, though. I don't know. I was watching table tennis. I think there's like the table tennis championships were on or something.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, so those are the majority of our questions. We do want to know where you're going to be found in person, in the flesh. How can people encounter you? Meetups, WordCamps, conferences. 2015, what's your plan?
2015, what's the plan? I'm getting married. You know what that means? Travel lockdown.
Oh,
so
yes.
You will not see me outside of the Northeast, and although I might venture out to Prestige in Vegas. Those guys put on a hell of an event, guys and gals, put on a great event. Other than that, it'll be the typical Northeast corridor of WordCamps, New York, Boston, Providence, maybe Philly, and I'd like to get down to Connecticut if Connecticut does one, and up to Maine if Maine does one.
Those are all great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know we would give you a lot of high fives and hugs if you came to Ann Arbor in October.
Loads of high fives and hugs.
Yeah, just more than you can handle. Think about it.
So
honeymoon, WordCamp.
She'll understand, right? She knows how it is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, 2015 is the year for Matt. Congratulations on that. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
That was the best year of my life and the best decision I ever made as well. All right. So, wrapping up the great episode 39 of WP Roundtable with Matt Medeiros. We are so grateful you came to talk with us, learned a lot today. We barely scratched the surface of the things we wanted to ask you about. There are so many things that I would love to ask you about podcasting, about running a membership site, about client services and value pricing, and everything else that your plugin and your themes, all the rest of it. I think you're one of those folks who's probably going to go immediately on my list of scheduling again, because we just have more that we would love to talk with you about. If that's
happy to do it again.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna hold you to that. So, thank you very much, Matt. This is the conclusion of our episode. So, we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you.
Matt.